Hey everybody, my name is Raleigh Maxson. I work out at Reptile Gardens, and this is going to be the first episode of Maxson Herps. And this episode we're going to be focused mostly on tortoises, so let's go check them out. So the first animal we're going to start with is one of the smaller species of tortoise that we have here. Now this right here is a pancake tortoise. You can kind of see where its name comes from. These animals are extremely thin. They live in rock crevices. So that's where they go and hide, and that's why they have such a thin shell. They also have a very interesting shell because it's very flexible. It helps them squish in very tight spaces. And so the first animal we're going to start with is one of the smaller species of tortoise that we have here. Now this right here is a pancake tortoise. You can kind of see where its name comes from. These animals are extremely thin. They live in rock crevices. So that's where they go and hide, and that's why they have such a thin shell. They also have a very interesting shell because it's very flexible. It helps them squish in very tight spaces, and it'll help bounce back. Now, the cool thing about these animals is the females, they will only lay between 1 and 2 eggs at a time, and they're very large eggs, so the tortoises, when they're first born, are much larger than you might think. Now, this right here is a red-footed tortoise. They are native to more of a forest environment versus a lot of other species, but we still do provide them with hay. This is about a full-grown one. They won't get much bigger than this. He's only about a foot long, but they're extremely easygoing guys. Very, very cool animals. They retreat into their shell if they need protection. Now, the cool thing that's different about these than most of the other tortoise species is they can eat a little bit more variety of fruits just because they're more available where they are found. Moving up in size, we'll have the third largest species in the world, which is this guy right here. And this is a sulcata tortoise, also known as an African spur-thighed tortoise. It's munching on some collard greens right now. The reason they're called spur-thighed tortoise is if you look closely, they do have all these little spurs. And lots of times they use them to try to flip other males over. They also have these long, what's called a gular, and that's this little plate underneath the shell right here. That'll also be helped to use in combating males. These ones, again, they are fairly easygoing animals, but they're more of the grassland tortoise, so they're going to be, for the most part, eating a lot more of the grasses and grains than some of the other tortoises. So those sulcata tortoises I was showing you a minute ago, these are actually their offspring. They were just born within the last day. But anyway, these are very, very small newborn sulcata tortoises. We'll grab one right here. As you can see, they're very adorable little guys. You have to be very careful with them though. Since they're so small, you have to give them a very shallow water bowl. I mean, this thing is maybe a quarter of an inch deep. If you get any deeper, they won't be able to get out and they may drown even. So you just have to make sure to check their water frequently and make sure they're okay. So, as you have probably guessed by now, just from the size of the outdoor enclosure, that they must be much larger. The next tortoises I'm going to show you are some Aldabra giant tortoises. They're the largest we have, and they're actually the second largest species of tortoises in the entire world, following closely behind the Galapagos tortoises. So getting up with a more personal, close view of these guys, all three of them are hanging around here. This is where they are fed in, and they were just fed yesterday, so they're still munching it away. We've got 3 of these. They range in size, as you can tell. Our biggest one's named is Tank. This is Quasimodo, and that is Orville. Now, all of them are extremely easygoing animals, and Tank is just over 500 pounds. Even though he's big, does not mean he's the oldest of them. Size and age aren't necessarily connected. Tank is only 51 years old, while the smallest guy hanging out over here, Orville, is 108 years old. Quasimodo in the middle, he's our youngest at only 47. These animals do on average live between 125 and 135 years, but the world record is 152, so we very well could see these guys living for a very, very long time. These animals, again, they're kind of hunched over in the corner at the moment, but they're extremely nice as well. Sometimes you pet them in just the right spot, they'll stand right up for you. The cool thing about these animals is sailors used to collect them on their boats, and they would keep them in the lower decks of the ship. These animals can go upwards of a year without food or water, so they just keep them there upside down so that they would have a continual supply of food, and they would eat the tortoises. Now, that is not good for their populations, though. Their populations decline quite dramatically through those years that back in the 16, 17, 1800s, but they have done good at conservation and brought them back. They're not nearly as endangered as those Galapagos tortoises I had mentioned before. These tortoises, they do have a very similar diet to those that I was showing you before. We offer them year-round plenty of grass and hay for them to munch on. And then multiple times a week, we bring them about 60, 70 pounds worth of fresh fruits and vegetables. We lay low on the fruits, though, just because they're sweet and they're not the best for the animals. We typically try to stay with the more green options, such as kale and collards. Well, guys, that's all I have for you today. Thanks for watching the first episode. Leave your comments. Let me know what you want to see in the future. I'll try to get these out as frequently as possible. So I will be seeing you next time on Maxson Herps I.